that comes to the heart of the urgency of building a new Nigeria where things will be properly done based on people saying the truth, doing things rightly within the laws and behavior that is required of a modern society. So for me, I feel positive. On other areas, and maybe as we go along, I'll clarify what is happening and everything. Thank you. That a friend of his who was involved in fuel subsidy gains and everything told him that it is criminal, that is even tired of making money through that type of crime. It should be removed. Which shows there's a criminality side of it and corruption side of it. Then if you look at, since the subsidy has been removed, our consumption is just about half of what it is, which again shows that what we are consuming. So for me, the approach would have been, and that's what I said, go and read my book, is to remove the corruption and criminal side of it, remove the excess demand that is not factual. By doing this, you would have reduced it by 50%. The remaining 50% is what would have been able to, after consultation with various stakeholders, been able to find a way in an organized manner, remove and showing the proceeds of the removal or the gains of the removal to be invested in a critical development areas, education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. People need to see that transparency of transferring from here to here to gains and everything. And when you do it in an organized manner, with proper palliative that are well structured, thought after, not just about that, you would have been able to see Nigerians go along with you. One of the things we are suffering with this announcement is what I can call announcement effect. If you talk through and everything, that's what we would have done as Labour Party.
Okay, so Mr. Peter, I would also like you to sound off on probably some level of specifics as regards, the kind of palliatives you are going to put in there in the first place. What are the kind of targeted palliatives? And let's talk about this floating the naira, the exchange rate conundrum, where we are today. Things have gone really south. Formerly, naira to the dollar, we know the threshold at 2015, but now it's over 1,000 naira to the dollar. The naira is taking a tremendous beating. What would you like to say about this? You've also talked about, fraudulent activities in the foreign exchange market and all of that. What would you do precisely, probably step-by-step empirical approach to the naira as we speak today?
So that they go and copy, idiots.
Well, again, my dear friend Rufai, congrats, I heard you're not a doctor. So you're going to be more difficult on dealing with. So let me tell you, Rufai, first is that you can't float a currency you don't have supply. It's like building a long-dated house in a criminal-ridden society. You have to have a defense mechanism. Nobody floats what you don't supply. You don't have supply. I believe, I wouldn't even, not just saying what we would have done, but I believe that now we have new CBN team. They have to look at the overall monetary policy, which, and if they focus on their job, which is exchange rate, inflation, and everything, I know it is again not something you announce haphazardly. It's something you look at. Nobody flows his currency without having adequate supply. when you don't have adequate supply, there were pressures, there were criminality enhancing trade regime. Again, we should have worked on eliminating those criminality, those things that will help to start dealing with issue of any more foreign exchange while trying to manage what you have, rather than just leaving it open and say market forces. I can tell you, not even in the developed world have anybody left this currency to market forces, because sometimes you might not control it. And now it's because it's difficult to control, because you cannot reverse your policy that you've sent down. So that's why I said this is an announcement effect that would have been well thought through by a proper economic team and consultation properly before announcing. You don't just announce these things in a market square and say we're going to do this.
Okay, Mr. Peter Obi.
Governance is different from that.
Mr. Peter Obi, I want to get you right, and that's why I ask specifics. Are you saying we should have devalued the currency to over 600 and go to look for money?
That's what I would have done. Go and read my listen. Yes, I would have done that.
So you're saying that go to look for money?
I would have devalued the currency, still stay where we in a management form, making sure that whatever is available is used by the real sector.
But in all
removing the criminality, I can tell you, I know in that regime, I know, yes.
Mr. Peter Obi, but in all fairness, to this government, where will the money have come from for them to now be able to keep that rate, owing to the fact that the CBN report coming out saying that we are so encumbered that we probably only have around 3 or 4 billion in our reserves to be able to spare. So where will the money come to now defend the currency when we have a backlog of close to 6, 7, 8 billion dollars in the first place? So are you saying you will have borrowed more to now defend the currency?
I'm involved a little bit in finance. And I know that in every country of the world, they're even trying to borrow money, even using a company. It doesn't matter what yes, you can do that. You are not borrowing to defend, just to defend the currency, but to stabilize it temporarily while you're working aggressively on your exports. It's not everywhere. We are not the first to do it. You can do that while you're working aggressively on your export, which, if you look at what people are stealing and doing today, if we're able to do it, and remember what I said, manage the criminality side of it, like whether it's rand tripping or anything. If you do it properly, I can tell you, you will be able to do it. And also, removing the fact that dollar has become what you can call underground currency of our economy. It shouldn't be. We have a currency called Naira. So you should remove it. All these things that people are using dollars to do, which are not productive, should be removed. If you remove it, I can assure you can strengthen the currency. But you have today, even if you want to do party primary, people are sharing dollars. If you have these people, that is not our currency. And that should be a stiff penalty in dealing with that issue. If people earn it legitimately, let them spend it the way they want. If people are doing business and earn it, let them spend it the way they want. But in a situation where it has become even a means of, call it corruption and criminality in our system, we should be carefully manage it.
Mr. Obi.
But if any legitimate, like I said, even if you want to put it in your pillowcase, go and put it there. If you want to do it the way you feel yourself, that's fine. But illegitimate one, if we remove all that, we can manage the rate. While we work on our export in order to strengthen our currency. Countries have gone through this.
Mr. Obi, to address the fallouts of the decision to remove fuel subsidy, the Tinubu administration has been taking a number of steps, particularly in terms of palliatives. 5 billion naira to the states to provide palliatives in the states. Teachers and workers in tertiary institutions have been told that their salaries will increase by certain percentages dated back to January 2023. Only yesterday, the president first said 25,000 naira provisional wage increment for 6 months for average low-range workers, but that has been changed, that no worker is low grade. Everybody is important. So that has been increased to 35,000. 15 million households are to be given a total of 75,000 naira between October and December. Now, what are your thoughts on some of these steps, palliatives, that government has introduced or has promised to introduce in some instances to ameliorate the hardship occasioned by fuel subsidy removal?
Well, let me not go into. I have not been opportune because I've been traveling to be able to read the details of yesterday's announcement. It was just on yesterday. And like I said, I was traveling all day yesterday. So I've not been able to look at it. The last palliative I know the president did issue was the one of when he did 75 billion to 75 million companies, and the one of I think 50,000 to companies. That it was the last one that I was involved or I listened to. And for me, the one of yesterday, for me, is the issue of the temporality of it. Because if I'm correct, he said this will last for 6 months. Or is it going to be permanent? Are we now saying we've changed or our minimum wage?
Please go ahead, sir. We can hear you. Hello, Mr. B. Are you with us? Well, it looks like there's a problem with audio connection there. We'll take a short break, and then when we return, the conversation with Mr. Peter Obi will continue. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Candidate of the Labour Party and former governor of Anambra State. Mr. Peter Obi, thank you very much for staying with us. Well, before we took that break, you were talking about the provisional nature of these 6 months, 35,000 naira for federal workers that the federal government promised yesterday. And you were raising a number of questions. Please go ahead.
What I said before is that if you look at what this government has been doing since inception, you could see announcements with limited thinking, which again produces limited outcomes. The temporality of it is like announcement effect. You're just moving and suddenly, even just yesterday, like you said, 25 naira and 35 naira, that means it wasn't thought through. But let me go back to the one I said I listened to the announcement. A few weeks ago, they announced that they're going to do 75 billion, if I'm right, to 75 companies over the next 1 year. They've done 150,000 naira to what they call supposedly small businesses. I will call it because it was micro businesses and things like that they are going to give 50 million. And then, of course, they've come up with this new one. When I looked at that one, my question is 75 billion to 75 companies. Are these companies in Ikorodu or the ones in just Kaduna or in Nnewi? Because for a huge country like Nigeria, you're going to look, if it's looking at manufacturing outfits, you're going to be looking at about 10,000 companies, which for you to make any meaningful impact, you need to take about 1,000 of them and provide them the same 1 billion each, which will be about 1 trillion. If you talk about micro and small businesses. You have about 40 million registered and unregistered in that cluster, and they're your engine of growth. And if you're going to start creating jobs and start turning around things, 50,000 today is approximately $50. So what you need to do is to at least, since there are 40 million, take 10% of them and give them at least 1 million naira each, which is $1,000 as of today, so that you can start meaningfully trying to even create two jobs by making sure that each of them are working. So things have to be done differently, and it must be thought through with proper consultations and economic team that have sat down and analyzed this. It's not just announcing that, oh, we've done this to states, there must be, again, a coordination between the federal, the state and local governments in trying to pull through this difficult time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Peter Obi. The questions we've asked you with regards to reviewing some of the policies or decisions by this particular administration, you seem to have some very sound responses to these questions. Now, the president, in his inaugural speech, had said that he was willing to work with opposition party members who didn't win the election to move the country forward. Has an invitation like that been extended to you, and would you be willing, for the collective good of the nation, to offer some of your ideas and options to this particular government to move Nigeria forward? And second of all, very important statement you made during your appearance at Princeton University, that the leaders in Nigeria must have the right qualifications. That can be a bit vague. When you say right qualifications, are you saying that they should upgrade the minimum standard for who would become president or governor from being just having a school leaving certificate, or qualifications in terms of bringing experience, what you bring to that office? So just those two questions. Would you be willing to work with this government for the good of this nation, because people are suffering, with your great ideas to work with this government? And second of all, what do you mean by right qualifications for whoever it is that should lead this nation?
Okay, let me go again and tell you. We are at a point where we're challenging the process. These are part of what makes a nation. The process through which people come into office or assume or achieve anything is far more fundamental than what they do thereafter. It is important that the people come through the right door and not just jump into through the window and start saying, okay, let's move on, let's clean it up, let's do this and everything. No. So we're challenging the process. And that has to come to a logical end before any other thing. And it has to be something that people will seemingly, that's why I said we have to begin by doing the right things. And not doing the right things is having the right process. On issue of qualification, I never said anything with regards to improving the degree or doing this. The issue of qualification is the issue of leaders making statements, doing things that are honest and truthful. This is an issue of honor and integrity. It is the foundation on which you build society. If you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, there's so many issues of certificates, age, all sorts of one falsification or the other, all over, within the leaders. There's no way people can doing this and be able to do the right things, because that means they live in a falsified life. And that is not good morally, and a sign it should be given to the society. There's so many great people in the world who did not go to school, And I can tell you, America today, one of the highest, or I would say the greatest president America has ever had, is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln did not go to a formal school. In fact, his entire education is less than 1 year formal education. Because he came from a very extremely poor family. His education was by borrowing books and everything, which he did later. But he was able to show, if you read his history, you show that he came from a very poor home and did not have formal education. He didn't have to say he read the PhD here or he did this one here, and then there's an argument like what we're having all over Nigeria today, which is bringing the credibility of our nation into question. If you come to the UK, one of the greatest prime ministers, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill is known to have had a poor academic record. In fact, his academic record was very bad that his father had to enlist him in the army. Even when he went to take an exam to be able to be enlisted into the British Military Academy, he sat it 3 times before he could pass. Eventually, he became a prime minister and became a great prime minister. You go to the corporate world, the biggest company we have today in terms of market value is Apple. The founder is a dropout, a school dropout. His history shows that. The second biggest company is Microsoft. At least Apple today is about 2.9, if I'm right, about 2.9 trillion company, when African GDP is about 2.9. So it's about the same thing as African GDP. The second biggest company is Microsoft, founded by Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a university dropout. It's written there. It's not, there's no question. The fourth richest person in the world, Larry Ellison, is a poor person. The mother had to give up for adoption when he was 9 months.
All right. So that's...
So you do not really have to have all the degrees in the world to be great. But you need to be honorable about your past so we can know who exactly you are and everything. The world are bound by great people who have poor past and no education, and that forms part of their greatness.
All right, so the other question I asked you with regards to you working with this government, I said, okay, you said because of the process. Is that what your response to that is? In the interest of Nigerians, to offer some of your suggestions in terms of the way forward, would you be willing to work with this government?
No.
Since the president has opened his... Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Peter Obi, can you hear me? All right. We'll take a quick break, just so we can get back that connection, and when we come back, 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party and former governor of Anambra State. He was just concluding his thoughts with regards to working with this particular government, with regards to his initiatives and ideas in the interest of Nigerians, and I asked if you'd be considering that option.
Well, like I've answered that, I said there's issue of legitimacy of the government first, which is being dealt with. And as far as I'm concerned, again, when it comes to issue of working, even being in opposition is part of building the process of having a proper government. What is important is that we're challenging the process through which this government came into being, and that challenge is still there. And I've mentioned the issue of what you said about issue of what I mentioned in Princeton regarding qualification. It is not qualification, it's more of people being honest about their background, being honest about where they are. And as mentioned, using both Abraham Lincoln, Churchill, in the business, Bill Gates and Oko, to state that there's so many great people who have poor backgrounds, no education, but they've been able to say so and you can read so without having the issue of going back and forward, whether they're this, that, and everything, which questions the entire thing. Whenever I talk about leadership, I talk about character. This is what is included in that character, where we know that what this person is saying is the right thing. This is critical, it's the foundation, it's the character that is the foundation of building what we can say good leadership. After that, you talk about competent, capacity, commitment, all those things, integrity.
Mr. Peter Obi.
So it's about honor and integrity. Look at what happened with Salusi.
Mr. Peter.
What is it called, Buhari, that just said something, and when he left office.
Modeled up. We'll go for a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk some more. I think we have to sort this out once and for all. Thank you.